Welcome, friends. This is your brother Morya speaking. Your brother Morya, who would like to simply ask you, why are you here? Why are you here, really? Is it because you want to learn to become therapists, to learn techniques, or perhaps to learn to love better, to live better? If this is what you think, you're not completely correct. You came together here, not simply tonight, but each time you came together here, you did so deep within you, more or less consciously, for the truth. I'm not saying not to learn the truth, because truth cannot be learned. Truth is an experience. Truth must be lived and is revealed. Truth is the Christ principle in you. Living the truth isn't only, or not exactly, to never tell the smallest lie. I know perfectly well that during your earthly life, there are times where little lies exist to prevent great sufferings or needless torments. No, I am speaking of the other truth, the real truth, which is transparency. A transparency which is such that all masks are removed and all roles that we play progressively fade away, to allow the nakedness of our being, which is our most beautiful garment, to play its essential role of healer, its role of miracle worker, its role of Christ. Don't be afraid of the word Christ. There is the Christ our brother, whom you all know, but there's also the universal and eternal Christ principle. And this Christ principle is what every life is worthy of its name and is intended to integrate and express. It's this truth, this Christ truth, the principle of all principles that you came here to discover. The therapies are, in a sense, pretexts, albeit very useful on a physical level and in your world, but looking with perspective, there are only pretexts, because the true agent of healing and of reconciliation is the Christ principle, which lives in the power of truth. So I ask you, if your presence here really has meaning for you, then Drop all of your masks, all of you. I know this is a decision that you all made coming into this world and to sow the seeds of awakening of your own consciousness. But old roles and masks die hard. And in a group like yours or any group of people, even the most well-intentioned, the most awakened and loving, there are always old personality reflexes that prevent the energy of truth from fully expressing itself. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? There's still too many roles, habits, or reflexes that grow weary of their own game and tire out others. I sometimes watch you through a window of light. I see you working here or elsewhere. And as you've been told already, I can also hear the screeching noises made by your egos. I don't like him. I don't like her. I won't treat this one. Oh no, not her. You can't deny it. My energy and that person's don't harmonize. I'm not going to make an incision. I won't put my hands here. It doesn't feel right. You can't deny this. You may find me very severe or exacting, but precisely, you must realize that this is exactly how the vibration of truth can reveal itself and will reveal itself. So you must absolutely abandon these old reflexes and these masks. As you know, a group such as yours is like a miniature world. So see to it that your miniature world be different from the other one, the one in which you live. That it be different for its insistence on truth, its selflessness, and its lack of armor. This is how groups and gatherings of hearts like yours can hope to sow seeds of awakening in mankind. This is where you need to start, each one of you individually, and beyond all the pretexts that you might find justifiable, those that you may feign to believe, beyond all these pretexts, that is where you must move ahead and where you must be. Throughout times, throughout history, my demanding nature has been my guiding light. Indeed, it's through rigor that the energy of truth can express itself and reveal Christ in each one of us. Rigor as well as coherence. That is the fire that you don't yet master, the fire of coherence. You sometimes mention this term amongst yourselves, and it's taught as a sort of cement that would allow you to work better, and this is correct. But let me also describe coherence as the cornerstone of the edifice of any human life wishing to grow and reveal itself and be worthy of life with a capital L. Be coherent in your actions, your thoughts, and of course in your feelings. Without this coherence, no progress can be accomplished on your path. You can't speak words of peace and smile and all the while nurture thoughts that are like venom and continue to frown deep down in your soul. There is only one position. Either you really are what you say and you are your smile, or all this means nothing. That is what I demand of you. When I say I demand, I am not demanding for myself as Morya. I speak of the energy of Christ that dwells within me. In other words, the energy of life, real life, no more, no less. Be yourselves. Do not be a sneer. Do not be a lie, nor an armor anymore. We see quite often, and I also surmise, that you aspire to become masters, or at least disciples worthy of this name. Deep down inside your hearts, you already see yourselves there. But this may remain a mere image for a long time to come if you don't firmly plant the principle of coherence in the soil of your soul and of your consciousness. You may have noticed that so far I haven't yet mentioned the word love, for a very good reason. Without this, without the decision of transparency, of rigor, and of coherence, there cannot be any love. There are parodies of love, perhaps even commendable parodies, but there's still only a hint of the real, true love, and that is not enough. I know you understand me. Our brother Christ became Christ not because he had been appointed as such. If all his companions on the way became what they did, they too did not become appointed. They built themselves through rigor and righteousness. It's that simple, you see? Love is willpower. Love is tenacity. This is what I came to tell you today. I didn't come to say, lay your hands this way, open your heart more when you send this or that colored energy. This you need to learn, of course. But behind that, You need to have complete abnegation and truth in your heart. In other words, transparency. And to abstain from innuendos. Otherwise, you will remain much longer in this state of suffering, which is characteristic of your current world. Be the leaven, not because you know or because you understand, but simply because of what you will have lived and experienced inside, within. Love is not a great principle. Healing is not an energy that is directed through learning. The Christ state that you need to work on and reveal within you is a state that you live in throughout the universe without even knowing. Simply the curtains of your heart and your soul are still drawn. You live within the energy of truth, within the energy of love, but your lack of rigor and your incoherences don't allow you to open the blinds of your consciousness. This is what you need to work on. I say it again. Drop your masks. Abstain from innuendos and from lies that you tell yourselves and that you end up believing. Don't say, I'm doing the best I can. This doesn't concern me. It's my neighbor, my brother, my sister, my father. This doesn't make any sense. This does not make any sense. If you smile, when you wish to offer a gaze, then let your gaze be a gaze and your smile be a smile, without any pretense. So long as there are pretenses, whatever the excuses you find for doing so, you are and will remain outside the energy of Christ. Even if you're bathed in this constant energy on a universal level, because you will be blind and deaf to its presence. The lie that we tell ourselves is the worst kind of lie. If you want love, if you offer love, then be demanding of yourselves. This way, this is how you will reveal yourselves to your soul. And one fine morning, you will be able to say, I am, yes, I am. And this I am won't mean that you have reached the heart of the sun. It will just mean, I have the key in my hand. I have the key for which my Christ, my brother, the Christ, came to meet me.
au-delà de tout cela,
and beyond all of that,
au-delà de tous les prétextes,
beyond all pretexts,
soyez
be forgiveness.
tant qu'il ne vous
As
ne
long
serez
as
pas
you are
pardonné,
not forgiveness,
tous les germes de
the
toutes
seeds
les guerres
of all
perdureront.
the wars will continue to grow.
Je vous écoute, ami. Exprimez.
I am now listening to you, my friends. Please speak.
Et n'hésitez
And
pas
don't hesitate
à vous
to
avancer
come
vers
towards me.
Il
Come
n'y ait pas de
closer.
distance. Dans toute
Let there
mesure
be
du
no
possible,
distance between
avancez.
us.
Approchez.
Come forward. Bruno, I had a question regarding what you just said. How can
Je
we...
t'interromps.
I interrupt you, my brother.
Tu me
You
dis
said,
par rapport à ce que vous dites.
concerning what you said in the
Ton
polite
frère,
form,
Morya.
I am your brother, Morya, in
Je ne suis pas
the
votre
familiar
frère, Morya.
form rather than the polite form.
Comprends-tu
Bruno, do you
ce
understand
que je veux te dire par cette simple réflexion?
what I am saying by this simple comment?
Nous sommes
What I mean is that we are close.
Nous sommes tous
We all
proches, tous de
belong
la
to the
même
same
famille.
family,
Et il n'y a
and none
aucun
of you
d'entre vous
should
qui puisse
exclude
s'exclure de cette
himself
grande famille
from
humaine,
this
de
great
cette
human
grande famille
family
céleste que je
and this
représente
great
ici,
heavenly
sous
family
prétexte
that I
d'une multitude de
represent.
choses qui n'ont pas de consistance. Je t'écoute.
I'm listening. How can we find ourselves when we see ourselves through filters that are different for each of us according to our life experiences?
Tout d'abord, en prenant
First of all,
conscience qu'il
you
s'agit
have
de
to
filtres.
realize that they are filters.
C'est déjà un très grand
And
pas.
this is a major
de se
step
rendre compte
when you
qu'il s'agit de
realize
filtres.
that they are filters.
Cela demande de
For
s'asseoir,
this, you need to
devant
stop
soi,
genuinely
d'énumérer
and
ces filtres,
make a list of these
s'il le
filters.
faut,
If necessary,
de les
you should
nommer sur
name
des
each
papiers,
one of them on a sheet
et
of
de faire en
paper,
sorte
and then
de les dépasser les uns
endeavor
avec
to
les autres,
overcome
ce qui est
them
clairement perçu,
one after another.
que ce soit des
Whatever
filtres
you
ou autre
clearly
chose,
perceive,
eh
filters
bien,
or
en vient
anything
à un moment
else,
donné à être
will
clairement dépassé.
eventually be overcome.
Le plus
The
difficile
most
dans un
difficult
chemin de progression
task
est
on a
d'être
path of
conscient
self-realization
de nos
is
propres
to become
barrages, de nos
aware
mensonges, de nos
of our
filtres, comme tu dis.
blockages, our lies, or our
Quand tout
filters.
cela est identifié,
Once you've
on se crée de
identified
petits
this,
défis au
then you
quotidien.
can start setting
Pas
yourself
nécessairement de grands défis, mais de
small
tout petits défis
challenges,
qui font
not big
que ces
ones,
filtres,
but
là,
small
parce qu'il est
ones,
question de filtres ici,
which will
eh bien,
eventually
doit avoir de
lead
moins en moins
to these
de
filters
consistance.
dissolving.
Place-toi
Go
là
where your
où est ton
spirit
esprit
is.
chaque soir
Every
dans tes prières.
evening in your
Que ce ne soit
prayers.
pas
It should
Bruno
not be
incarné
Bruno's
chaque
incarnation
soir
praying
sur
every
le plateau.
evening or morning.
Que ce
It should
soit
be
le
the
diamant
diamond
dont Bruno
from which Bruno was
est
born.
extrait. Chacun
Each
de
of
nous
us
est issu
stems
d'un
from a
esprit aussi
spirit
pur que le
as
diamant.
pure as diamond.
Il faut constamment se souvenir de cela.
We should always remember
Ce
that.
diamant-là n'a que
This
faire
diamond
des mensonges,
has
des
no
rôles,
need
des
for
vérités, des
lies,
souffrances.
roles, truth, and
Réfugiez-toi,
suffering. Seek
réfugiez-vous,
shelter
chacun là où vous
in
êtes,
the diamond of
autant
your
que cela se
spirit
peut,
as
dans
much
le
as you
diamant de
can,
votre esprit. Et
each
alors,
one of you.
l'altitude vous sera
Then
donnée
you will be
pour
given the
dépasser
necessary altitude
tout ce
to
qui vous
overcome
freine,
everything,
tout ce qui vous fait
everything that
souffrir à
slows you
travers
down,
les villes
everything that
aléas
makes
de
you
la vie.
suffer in the
Être
vicissitudes of
soi-même,
life.
c'est s'identifier
Being
de
oneself
plus en
means
plus à ce
identifying
diamant de
oneself
l'esprit.
more and more with
C'est
this
une petite
diamond
gymnastique qu'il
of the
faut
Spirit.
également décider.
It will take a bit of
Une
practice
gymnastique qui
also,
devient aussi
but
facile
it
à
will become
pratiquer,
as easy and
aussi
as
spontanée
spontaneous
que la
as the act
respiration
of
qui vous fait vivre
breathing which
présentement.
sustains you.
Veux-tu quelque
Do
éclaircissement?
you need any further clarification? Brother Morya, thank you for being here with us. It's a great pleasure, great honor. I have a question on behalf of Ricardo, who first would like to thank all the brothers for transmitting all the therapies and also for the problem exposed by Ricardo of sleep apnea. And he asked me to tell you the following. With the grace he received from Sai Baba and the brothers, things have changed in him. And he noticed that he was easily inspired on the mental level and has the feeling that his subtle bodies are no longer in harmony and that it prevents him from being grounded and being consistent. He asks if you could give information on how to synchronize and harmonize the different subtle bodies. Because for him, he observes this with his mental body, whereas for others it's for the emotional body or the physical or the causal body. He asks if you can give information on these different subtle bodies and also on the physical, which is far too little regarded and not
Voilà une immense
honored.
question.
Now that's a vast question.
C'est un cours complet
It's a complete
pour
course
répondre
that would be
selon
necessary
sa demande, selon
to
son
answer this question as
Il est
wished by
vrai que la
Ricardo.
plupart d'entre vous, si ce n'est
Indeed,
peut-être
most
tous,
of you, if not all,
et c'est un peu un témoignage concordant avec ce que je viens
and
de vous
this
signifier, bien
is
la plupart
congruent
d'entre
with
vous
what I
souffrent,
just said,
vivent
most
des
of you
décalages entre
live
différents niveaux de réalité.
discrepancies
Entre eux, ils
between
sont emportés par leurs
the
émotions,
different
par leur
areas of
émotif,
life.
par leurs pulsions
Sometimes
physiques,
they feel
et même
impulses
s'ils
on the
aspirent
emotional level, on the physical level.
à la plus grande des réalisations,
And even though
toujours une
people
partie d'eux-mêmes
yearn
a
for
tendance à se
realization,
désynchroniser.
there's always a part of them
Je suis bien
that tends
d'accord avec
to
cela.
desynchronize. I agree with this.
Nous pourrions dire
And we could
le
say
drame de
that
l'humanité,
therein
la
lies
conscience
the
et
drama of
pulsion de soi,
humanity and of the
qui
consciousness
vit
aware of
ces
itself.
formes de dissociation constantes.
It lives
Ces formes
constant
de dissociation
state of
constantes qui sont simplement
dissociation.
l'expression
And these are
de la
simply the
dualité,
expression of duality,
l'expression des
the
frontières,
expression of
non
borders,
pas des frontières qui
not
existent,
of existing
mais des
borders,
frontières
but
que la vie
borders
consciente d'elle-même
that living beings
a
aware of
tendance à
themselves
s'inventer
tend
pour
to
avoir
invent
l'impression
in order
d'exister.
to feel that they really exist.
Il pourrait y avoir une
There could be a
multitude de
large
techniques,
number
et
of
il existe une multitude de
techniques,
techniques
and there are a
que
large number
beaucoup
of
d'écoles sur
techniques
Terre
taught in many
enseignent
schools on earth,
et demandent à leurs étudiants d'expérimenter.
and
Beaucoup de
students
techniques nous ont été
practice.
communiquées, ou
And
ici
you've
ou ailleurs,
already
dans
been
d'autres
taught
écoles, dans
different
d'autres
techniques here
livres.
or elsewhere in schools or books.
Mais en
But the
vérité,
truth
il
is
n'y a
that
pas
there isn't a
une
single
technique
technique
qui puisse vous
that
faire
can make you
expérimenter et
experience
vivre
and live the
l'unification
unification of all
de
your
tous vos corps,
bodies.
c'est-à-dire de tous vos états
In other words,
de
of
conscience,
all your states of
état de
consciousness,
conscience
physical,
corporel,
affective,
état de conscience
emotional,
émotionnel,
your mental
mental
state of consciousness,
état de conscience en
and
rapport
pertaining
avec
to
la
the
réalité
causal
d'ordre causal.
body.
Je vous parle ici
I'm speaking here as a
en tant que
witness
témoin de ce
of
qu'il a
what
éveillé
he awoke
à
to
l'unité
solar unity.
solaire. Unité solaire avec un S majuscule, c'est-à-dire
Solar unity
solaire qui
with a
sous-entend
capital
lunaire
S
également.
also implies lunar
Réconciliation,
unity, the reconciliation
pôles.
of the poles of the battery.
Je vous parle donc en mon nom
I'm speaking in my own name,
en
as
tant
your
que
brother
votre frère
Morya.
Si vous aviez
If you had
affaire
asked
à un
another
autre
of my
de vos frères,
brothers,
peut-être vous
perhaps he
donnerait-il
would have
une
given you a
réponse
slightly different
un peu
answer.
différente. Il y a
There are
autant de
indeed as
chemins
many
que d'êtres en
paths
vérité.
as there are
Et à travers la
beings,
multitude des vies,
and through the
nous en
multitude of lives,
expérimentons une
we
multitude.
experiment with a
Le
multitude of
chemin qui
paths.
est mien,
My path,
qui a
the
été
way which has been my
mon
revelation,
révélateur, et qui pourrait
and
être
which
votre
could also be
révélateur,
yours,
c'est le
is the
chemin
path of prayer,
à la fois simple et complexe
which
de la
is
prière.
both simple and complex.
Votre frère Morya,
Your
ici
brother
présent, qui
Morya,
s'adresse à vous,
speaking here now,
vous indique
points
la
to
prière comme
prayer
étant la
as
clé
the
de
key to
l'unification.
unification.
Mais vous allez me
But
dire, qu'est-ce que
you
la
might
prière?
ask, what is prayer?
La prière,
Prayer
c'est
is the
l'offrande
offering
de votre
of your
être
whole being
total, dans l'instant,
in the moment
à
to
l'onde de vie,
the divine,
au divin, devrais-je dire.
to the wave of life.
Soyez là, dans cet instant,
Be
maintenant, comme
right
vous êtes
now
tous
this
des offrandes
living
vivantes.
offering, all of you, just as you are.
Osez vous dire réellement,
Be bold enough and
osez vous
dare
répéter intérieurement
to
et osez le
repeat to
clamer
yourself inwardly and to others,
simplement. Mon Père,
Father,
que votre volonté
thy
soit
will
faite.
be done.
Oh, je sais bien,
Oh,
c'est
I
une
know.
expression qui est
This
devenue
expression is
presque
almost
banale à
worn
force
out
d'avoir été
for having been
répétée
repeated
dans les
so
églises et dans
many
toutes les
churches
langues du
in all
monde,
languages
de
of the world.
différentes façons.
But
Mais
to
vivre
live this
cette
affirmation,
affirmation-là, c'est autre chose.
that
C'est à
is
cela que je
something
vous
different,
invite.
and
Cela
that is
est
what I
une
invite
prière,
you to.
la mise à disposition de votre être. Bien sûr, cette
This
prière-là
prayer
peut être
can, of
accompagnée
course,
de
be
toutes les
accompanied
paroles qui vous
by
viendront,
all the words that
ou
come to
celles qui
your
sont déjà
mind,
tricotées par les
though,
traditions,
or those that have been coined by
comme de
traditions,
celles qui vous viendront spontanément,
or
dans
of
l'élan
those
de
that
votre cœur.
spontaneously emerge from the
Mais si toutes ces
impulse
paroles
of your
ne sont
heart.
pas pénétrées
But if these words
de
are
cette
not
offrande,
permeated by
de
this
ce, mon
offering,
Père, que votre volonté soit faite,
my Father, thy will be done,
votre prière s'en
your
trouvera
prayer
diminuée.
will find
À
itself
chaque instant
diminished.
de votre existence,
As you've
l'avez-vous
taken
déjà
notice
perçu?
of this
À chaque
already,
instant de
in
votre
each
existence,
moment of your life,
vous êtes en
you're in
contact
close
étroit
contact with the
avec
Father.
ce Père-là. Ce Père qui en vérité
This
est aussi
Father,
mère,
who is,
bien évidemment.
of course, also the
Vous dites
mother.
parfois, ou vous entendez parfois
You
certains qui
sometimes say
s'interrogent,
or hear others
mais où est
asking
Dieu
themselves,
s'il
but
existe?
where is God if he really exists?
Mais vous avez
Well,
le
you
nez
have your
dessus.
nose on him.
Vous
You live
vivez
in him.
dedans. Vous êtes
You're
tellement
so
proche
close
de
to
lui
him that you don't perceive him.
que vous ne le percevez pas. Vous établissez
You're
une
erecting
barrière.
a barrier.
Il y a moi,
There's
il y a les
me,
autres,
there are others,
il y a la nature,
there's nature,
il
and
y a
somewhere
quelque part
there's God.
Dieu. C'est là où commence l'erreur.
This is where
Dans la
you start to
dissociation
go astray,
que le mental crée,
with the
mais ce
dissociation
mental
created by the mind.
qui est un
The
outil
mind
tout
is as
autant
much a tool
qu'une arme
as it is a
autodestructrice.
self-defeating weapon.
Ne le faites pas taire, car il a sa raison d'être.
Don't silence your mind as it fulfills a purpose.
Éclairez-le
Enlighten
par
it
un
by an inner
désarmement
disarmament,
qui tient dans cette parole,
which is contained
mon Père,
in this
que votre
saying,
volonté soit
Father,
faite.
thy will be done.
Que ce ne soit plus votre
Let it no
moi,
longer
je,
be I,
qui désire être satisfait,
personality
mais
that
votre
seeks
je
satisfaction, but your I
qui
am
appelle à la
that
paix
is calling for
et à la
peace
réunification.
and
Si c'est le je
reunification.
suis qui parle en
When
vous,
your I am speaks through you,
c'est-à-dire
in other
si
words,
c'est votre
when you give
esprit
your spirit
auquel vous donnez une
a
chance de
chance to
s'exprimer,
manifest,
eh bien,
all
les
barriers
barrières
come down.
s'effritent. Votre père, votre mère,
Your
sont
father,
là,
your
ils
mother are
apparaissent,
here.
je dirais,
I
dès
would say they manifest immediately.
demandez et
Ask,
vous recevrez.
and you shall receive.
Ne vous projetez
Don't project
pas
the
vers
promise of a better self
un meilleur
into
de
the
vous-même à
future,
venir. Appelez dans l'instant
but bring
ce meilleur
to
de
you
vous-même à
the
être.
best of you into being right
Appelez
now.
dans l'instant
Ask
le
the
germe
seed
du
of
Christ
Christ
à œuvrer en vous
to flourish
par
inside you
l'abandon
right now
de tous vos
by
réflexes de
abandoning
protection,
all
de
your
tous vos
reflexes
réflexes
of protection,
d'affirmation
your reflexes of self-assertiveness, of
par tous vos
concealment,
réflexes de
your
dissimulation,
reflexes of
vos réflexes
self-aggrandizement,
de glorification à travers un chemin
on a path you claim
dont vous vous
as
réclamez
yours
et qui vous honore.
and which honors you.
Combien d'entre vous,
How many of you, in fact,
combien d'entre vous, en effet,
display a
manifestent
false
une fausse
humility?
Tout
All
cela est
this
à
must
désagréger.
be taken apart.
Mon
My
rôle est
mission
de pointer le doigt
is to point the
là
finger
où c'est le plus délicat,
to the most sensitive spot,
là où vous ne pouvez plus vous permettre.
where you can no longer afford to cheat.
Si vous voulez vraiment
If you
ce que
really
vous
want
dites vouloir,
what you claim you want,
débarrassez-vous
then
de toutes vos
get
idées
rid of your
et
egos
répétez,
and
mon
repeat,
Père, que votre
Father,
volonté soit
thy
faite.
will be
C'est
done.
là que vous vous
Then you
découvrez.
will discover yourselves,
Peut-être d'abord en vous sentant
perhaps
seul et
first
totalement
feeling
nu,
entirely alone and
mais
naked.
il y a un
But
prix
there is a price for everything.
pour tout.
Yet
Et le prix
it's not
n'est pas
necessarily
nécessairement une
suffering,
souffrance, car la
because
souffrance est
suffering
encore une
is yet
technique.
another armor, another
Le
layer
prix,
of
c'est
scales.
l'acceptation
The price
de
is the
l'exigence
acceptance of the rigor
qui est demandée
or exigency asked
par la
of you
force divine.
by divine energy in order
Et cette
to come together
exigence
with it.
n'est pas
This rigor
un
has
divin
nothing to
chantage.
do with a divine scheme,
Elle est
but rather
le souffle
it's
incontournable
the inevitable
par lequel
impulse
vous grimpez
that will make
jusqu'à
you
vous.
rise to reach your true self. Good evening, brother. These ageless therapies, will they be more freely and more widely disseminated? Are they destined to become accessible to the masses? Or will they remain a bit of an ideal to be achieved in the art of therapy?
Il est certain que ces soins sont amenés à être
These certain
diffusés
therapies
beaucoup
are
plus
certainly
largement dans un
intended to
avenir
spread widely
relativement
in a
proche.
relatively near
Mais il ne faut
future,
pas non plus s'attendre
but also
à ce que
don't expect
ils
them
soient
to be
acceptés de la
accepted by a
grande majorité.
vast
Disons qu'ils
majority.
seront de plus en plus
Let us say
reconnus
that
comme
they
étant une
will
valeur
increasingly be
faisant
recognized as
référence
valuable
à
valuable,
quelque chose de
referring
fondamental dans
to
l'être humain.
something
Dans ce sens-là,
fundamental
oui,
in human
ils seront
beings.
davantage
In this
communiqués,
sense, yes, they
davantage
will be
enseignés,
further taught
jusqu'à être
and diffused,
presque aussi
and even made
banalisés, disons,
commonplace,
qu'aujourd'hui l'est l'homéopathie
as, for
ou
example,
encore l'acupuncture.
homeopathy or acupuncture have become today.
Ceci dit,
Nonetheless,
lorsque
once these
ces soins
therapies
se seront
have
répandus au point
spread
de ne
to the
plus être un
point of no
secret,
longer
ou
being
du moins de ne
secret,
plus
or at least
faire
not
penser à un secret
considered a secret
ou à
or
quelque chose de
suspicious
suspect aux
by
yeux de
some,
certaines personnes, il
then
existera
another
désormais
form of healing will
une autre
arise
forme de
from
connaissance
their use,
guérissante, car l'échelle
because
de l'ouverture
the way
du
in
cœur,
which
l'échelle
the heart can
permet au
open
cœur de
and continuously look
regarder
beyond
sans
the
cesse
horizon
au-delà des horizons, eh bien,
is infinite.
est infinie. Je veux simplement dire que quand une vérité
What I
est
mean is,
acceptée,
when a truth is
un ensemble
accepted,
de vérités de
or a set of
connaissances
principles or knowledge
prend une
is
place
officially
officielle, cela arrivera pour
recognized,
ces soins,
and this will eventually be the case for
une
these
autre
therapies,
forme de chemin
another
menant à la
path
guérison,
toward
une
healing
guérison plus profonde encore, se
emerges,
révélera.
even
Aussi
to a
vieille
deeper
que le
level.
sang.
This path also will be as old as time. Brother Morya, in the world of ascended beings, are there therapies and needs for healing as well? Are there, like on earth, clinics and hospitals for those who need it?
Cela existe, bien évidemment. Tous les mondes
Of
ont leur
course there are.
fragilité et
Every
leur
world
nécessité
has its
d'apprentissage.
weaknesses and
Mais,
necessities for
petite sœur,
learning.
pourquoi te
But
poser
little
de telles
sister, why
questions?
do you ask yourself such questions?
Chaque monde a ses propres
Every
défis.
world has its challenges.
Mais le
But the
véritable
real
défi
challenge
de tous les
in
mondes,
each of
c'est la
these worlds
simplicité.
is simplicity.
En réalité,
Indeed,
je ne suis pas
I'm not here
venu vous parler
to talk
d'autre
to you about
chose que de la
anything else
simplicité
than
initiale à
simplicity
retrouver.
that
La
leads
simplicité
to
qui
the alignment
est
of a
avec
being
lui-même.
with the self.
Tant qu'il y aura des techniques à
So
apprendre,
long as there are techniques to be
eh bien,
learned,
cela signifiera
then it implies
qu'il y a
that
encore
there's still a path
un
of
chemin relativement dense
density
qui
that
n'a pas
hasn't
été
been
abordé.
given up.
Évidemment,
Of course,
les chemins
paths
avec leur densité ont leur raison d'être.
of
C'est
density have a
une
reason
de
for
ces
being,
raisons-là qui vous rassemble ici.
and it's one reason why you're brought together here today.
En réalité,
But actually,
à travers
through
tout
everything
ce
you
que vous
learn,
apprenez, et
and
je
I come
reviens
back
ici
to what I
à mes
said
premières
earlier,
affirmations, tout ce que
everything
vous
you
apprenez
learn
doit vous servir à
must
désapprendre ce que vous croyez être et à
must come
désapprendre
for you to unlearn
votre
what you
rapport
think you
erroné
are
avec
and
le monde.
unlearn your erroneous relationship
Les techniques que vous apprenez,
to
qui
the
vous
world.
servent et qui vous aident,
These
qui aideront
techniques
autrui,
that help you and
qui
that
vous aideront à
will
aider
help
autrui,
others
qui le
and
font
will
déjà
help you help
vraisemblablement,
others.
tout cela à un moment donné
All of these,
de votre
at some
avance,
point of
non
your
seulement dans cette
progression,
existence, mais dans
not
d'autres,
only in
tout
this
cela
life
se
but in the future,
désagrégera
all
progressivement
of this will
à
progressively
mesure
vanish
que
as
vous
you
avancerez vers
move
vous-même.
on towards
Comprends?
yourself. Do you understand? unlearning
ce que l'on
what we
croit
think we
savoir.
know
C'est cela le
is the
chemin
path
du
of
Christ.
Christ. Brother, in various circles of energetic therapies, protection rituals are mentioned. Is this consistent? When we try to be love, do we still need protection?
Si tu parviens à être
If you can manage to be love,
pourquoi y aurait-il
then
une
indeed,
protection
why would you need
nécessaire?
protection?
La difficulté
The difficulty
est de
lies
réussir à être
in
réellement
truly
amour.
being love.
Être réellement amour,
Truly being love
c'est
means
être rendu à un niveau
that your
de rayonnement
radiance
purement christique.
has reached a purely Christ level.
Cela signifie tout simplement
So it
que
simply means that when
lorsque vous aidez,
you help others,
lorsque vous vous offrez
when
à
you
autrui,
offer
lorsque
yourself,
vous souhaitez
and you
offrir
endeavor
l'onde de
to
guérison à
transmit
autrui,
healing energy to others,
il peut toujours
it's always
arriver
possible
que vous soyez
that you be
atteint
reached by something
par quelque
hurtful.
chose de blessant. L'offrande de soi
The offering of
comporte
self
nécessairement
comprises necessarily
une fragilisation
of an element of vulnerability.
de la personne, tant que l'onde christique n'est pas
As
pleinement
long,
installée.
so long as the Christ energy isn't completely
Mais la
part of you.
fragilisation
But this vulnerability
ferment
is
pour
also
le
a leaven for
l'âme.
the soul.
Toute âme en chemin,
I tell you, every soul
toute âme en chemin
on a path
et qui veut poursuivre de façon
which has
volontaire son chemin,
voluntarily
ne
set
cesse
out
de
to
courir des
follow
risques. Et si
such
elle
a path
n'accepte pas de
always
courir ces
incurs
elle
risks.
n'avance pas.
If the soul does not accept
Soigner,
taking risks,
s'offrir
it won't
à
progress.
travers les
Caring
mille
for
choses de la
others,
vie,
offering
c'est courir
oneself
des
in a
risques.
1,000 ways implies
C'est se
taking
mettre
risks,
parfois
and
en état
also
de
sometimes
déséquilibre.
exposing oneself to
Tant que
destabilization,
l'amour christique ne se sera pas
so
totalement
long
installé en
as
nous.
Christ's love is not
Notre
completely
frère
part of
Christ
us. Our brother
a
Christ himself
lui-même
experienced all
toutes
these
ces étapes de
stages
fragilisation.
of
Si le Christ est
fragility.
devenu Christ,
If the Christ
c'est parce qu'il
became
est passé
Christ,
lui-même à
it's
travers
because he went through
toutes les phases
himself
d'apprentissage
all these
de la vie.
learning phases in life.
Il n'y a pas à calculer, donc, est-ce que je
So
risque ceci,
you
est-ce
shouldn't
que
be
je risque
weighing,
cela,
do I
on
risk
risque
this, do
toujours
I
quelque
risk
chose.
that? We are always risking something.
Plus on est
The
conscient,
more
plus on
conscious we are,
parvient à
the
minimiser
more we're
l'impact
able to minimize
des
the
risques sur nous,
impact of risks on
puisque
ourselves
plus d'altitude est
as
atteinte.
we have gained altitude.
Mais quand tu as commencé
As
à
for
entreprendre un certain nombre de
performing certain
rituels et
rituals
d'exercices
and
de
protective
protection,
practices,
il y a quelque chose
there's something
dans tout cela
in all of this
qui, en tant que Morya,
that as Morya,
qui ne
as the
convient
path
pas au chemin
I am showing you
que je tente de vous
doesn't,
exprimer. Le besoin de protection, la
isn't
recherche de
consonant.
protection
The need and the search for
est la
protection
marque d'une peur.
imply and denote fear.
Ne pas avoir peur
To
ne
not be
signifie pas
afraid
être
doesn't
inconscient.
mean being reckless.
Signifie
It
simplement
simply means we're leaving it up
que nous nous en remettons à
to
la
the
volonté de
will
notre
of
Père.
our Father.
J'avance,
I move
je
on,
prends des risques,
I take
je
risks,
soigne.
I offer
Peut-être
healing.
cela
It
sera-t-il
may be
dangereux à un
dangerous
certain
on a
niveau, c'est
certain
peut-être fort,
level,
mais
this
que la
offering
volonté
of self,
de mon Père soit faite.
but the
J'avance
will
en
of my Father
conscience,
be done. I
sans
move forward
m'économiser
consciously without sparing
et
myself
en essayant de dépasser
and
les unes
try
après les autres
to
toutes mes peurs.
overcome one by
C'est
one
cela
all
qui
of my
développe
fears.
la véritable
This is
force.
how you develop
Ce ne
real
sont pas
strength.
des allumettes,
It's not through what I
des
will call
allumettes mentales,
little mental
des
matches
sortes
or
de,
firecrackers you would
je
ignite
dirais, des petits pétards
around
de
you and that are
lumière que l'on fera fleurir autour de soi
akin
avec des
to
ingrédients
magic
ressemblant à des
formulas.
formules magiques. Vous êtes peut-être surpris par
You
ces
might be
expressions qui
surprised by
jaillissent
the
de moi.
expressions I use,
Mais à
but
chaque fois que
each
nous voyons
time we see
les uns et
you
les autres
reciting
réciter des
prayers
prières de
for
protection,
protection,
porter des
wearing
symboles autour
symbols
du cou,
around
disant
your
c'est une
necks
protection,
and
je
saying,
n'aurai pas
this is a
ceci, je n'aurai pas
protection.
cela.
I'm
Eh
protecting
bien, dans
from
leur
this,
aura,
I'm protected
je
from
vois,
that.
nous voyons, mes frères
We
et moi,
see in
des
your
espèces de
auras, my brothers and I,
petites
something that
bombes
looks like
ridicules
little bombs, little ridiculous
contre nous.
bombs. Do you
Nous ne nous
understand?
moquons pas de
We're
cela,
not
même si
making
cela
fun
peut
of
vous
you,
sembler
even if it might
être
seem
ce que
that
je fais
way
dans cet
just
instant.
now.
Nous voulons dire que il y a trop de choses
What we're
illusoires
trying to say is that there are
auxquelles
too
vous
many
vous rattachez.
illusory things that you hang on to.
Attachez-vous plutôt à ne plus avoir peur,
Hold
plutôt qu'à
on to
chercher à dresser
eliminating your fears rather
des
than
remparts de protection autour de vous.
erecting
Des remparts qui de
walls
toute façon vont exploser comme de
that
petits feux de Bengale,
will, in any case,
qui vont faire de
explode like
l'impression.
little Bengal lights.
Dépasser ce
Move
monde,
beyond that.
dépasser le monde
Move beyond
des
the
objets
world of
et des
protective
rituels qui protègent.
rituals
Nous ne
and
disons pas
objects.
qu'ils ne servent
We're
à rien,
not
ce n'est
saying
pas ça.
that they're of no
Je vous
use,
dis simplement
but I am
qu'il vous faut
saying
voir beaucoup
that
plus
you
loin
need to look
que
far beyond.
je ne dis pas qu'il n'y ait pas
I'm not
certaines
denying the
ondes de
existence
forme,
of certain
certaines
wave
formes
forms
archétypales,
and
certaines prières
archetypal
rattachées à de grands
forms and
égrégores
prayers
qui
that
constituent
are
des
connected to
protections.
great egregors that
Nous sommes
constitute
tous
protections. These things exist, of course,
Vous
but
pouvez
you can
viser
aim
quelque
towards
chose
something
de
so
tellement
much
plus
more
beau, de
beautiful,
tellement plus vrai
so much
par la nudité
more authentic, by the
de la
nakedness
vérité.
of truth.
La nudité que suppose
The nakedness
l'audace.
that entails boldness, you see?
Sachez ce que vous voulez
Know what you really
véritablement.
want,
Même si
even
ça
if
les
in the
fait un
moment
peu plus mal dans
it may
l'instant
be harder
d'emprunter le chemin de la
to
nudité.
take the path of nakedness
Est-ce que
and simplicity. Is that clear? Brother, are the mantras taught by some instructors during the course of initiations, what you call mental sparkles?
les allumettes, il
Yes,
en faut
they are.
parfois.
Sometimes you need sparklers
Je
also.
comprends bien que nous
Understand
n'avons pas
that
dit,
my
notre
brothers and
moi-même,
I,
que c'était
that we
inutile.
don't say they are
Cela peut
useless. They can
accompagner
accompany
un
you
certain temps notre
for a
cheminement.
while along the
C'est la
way.
raison pour laquelle ces mantras,
That's why
la
these
meilleure des
mantras
mantras,
were
ont été
made for
composés.
that purpose.
Mais
But
ultimement,
ultimately,
car je suis
because I am a
un
person
homme
of
de l'ultime
rigor,
par mon exigence.
I always aim
Ultimement,
for the
tout
ultimate.
cela
So
doit être
this too
dépassé.
ultimately must be
C'est
surpassed.
si tu en
Use
sens
them
le
if you
besoin,
need them
jusqu'à
until
ce que
you
tu
feel
ressentes eh bien que
they've
tout cela a eu
fulfilled
sa fonction, son
its
utilité.
function and its
Mais
purpose.
ils ne sont pas,
But these mantras are
ce n'est
not,
pas, ils ne sont pas
in and
un
of
but en
themselves,
eux-mêmes. Tout comme la
the goal.
méditation
Just
n'est pas
like
un but
meditation
en
is not
elle-même.
an end in
Ce que n'ont pas
itself.
compris un certain
Number
nombre
of
de méditants.
those who meditate
La
haven't
prière n'est pas un
understood.
but en elle-même.
Prayer either is
Rien
not
n'est
an
un
end
but
in
en
itself.
soi.
Nothing is an end in itself.
Le but,
You are the
c'est
goal.
vous
You endure Christ's state. Everything else will vanish in the course of eternity. Accept the rungs of the ladder for what they are. Climb them one after another. Take as many tools as your personality requires you to, but never cling to the ladder, nor to the tools. Father, may thy will be done. I am calling you to me now. Realize this fact, and you will see how the light will soon be coming to you. This light might have you feeling as though you're imminently disintegrating, or feeling scattered inside, not knowing who you are and where you are, and what your life means. That also is a phase and a transition. Will yourself to merge with that of your Father. Place this at the very center of your heart and at the center of your hopes and your requests. Thank you, dear friends, for the eagerness that you are showing. In this moment. Thank you for being little flames that yearn to become a real blaze. Please be thanked, but do not take this as gratification. Your brother Morya, you know it, stands for rigor and coherence. Be in peace. Come closer, one after another.
Mon Père, que votre volonté soit faite.